Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
hey.
Heather.
Hey, Drew. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I want to let everyone know that today I'm talking with Heather Quick, the epic marriage mentor. Welcome, Heather.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to a conversation. Um, I have been following you for, I don't know, when's the first time I liked your post? Has it been, feels like a long time. Years,
Years.
maybe? Yeah. And I'm just so honored to know any man who shows up with your depth and your like the groundedness and the authenticity you bring to talking about relationships and being a model for other human beings, not just men, human beings. It's just an honor to know you. So thank you so much for reaching out and
Mm,
for being excited as I am to spread the possibility of being in a totally extraordinary marriage after being in one that you thought wasn't going to be extraordinary. Like that's a conversation that I'm
yes.
always down to have. So thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the kind words. Um, Similarly, your content has always caught my attention.
Mm,
I'll sneak onto your page and just read what you've written. And consistently,
mhm.
everything that you write strikes a chord with me. And that's why I wanted to talk with you. I feel drawn to you. I feel drawn to your journey and your teachings. So thank you as well.
Yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be
And
alive with you, Drew.
yeah, yeah, I'm excited for today. The main reason I wanted to talk with you was because, like you said, you were in a place of thinking in your marriage this might not work. Um, you struggled personally,
Yeah.
and you're public with that, and you share that, and you also share your journey and your transformation. And that's what I want to hear about. I want everyone else to hear about it too.
Yeah.
um, you bring this lens of personal responsibility to the
Mhm.
conversation. It's not about blaming the other. It's about looking inward,
Yeah.
taking ownership,
Yeah.
and leading and
Yeah.
creating from the inside out.
Mhm.
I find that so compelling, so interesting, and I'd love to talk about that today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I went to I counted them up and this was over years. It wasn't all right in a row, but 5 different like marriage therapists over the years that I was like, how can this feel better to be married? How can being married feel better? I
Mm,
went to 5, 5 or 6 different people that I had researched them. I'm like, this person's really, going to be able to help. And I left every time feeling more or less hopeful that anything was ever going to change. And I remember the last person that I went to, I think I was really feeling like we got to shift this or I'm out, right? Like this isn't good for the kids. This isn't good for us. This isn't good for the world. Um, and I went and she'd been reading the Gottmans. I could see all her stuff. I was like, this person's so awesome. And I go and I'm like, I want to pick your brain. Like, thank you for seeing me. I want to pick your brain. What does it look like to take a marriage from super frustrating, about to be over, to amazing? And that poor woman looked at me and rolled her eyes and was like, "What are you talking, lady? Like, how about she was like, you don't that's not a thing, right?" She didn't have a framework. She didn't have a like a vibe in her body of what amazing marriage looked like. She was
mm,
really used to, and what we're surrounded by is we're used to people helping us cope with what we've got, right? And I think what the people that find something new are the people that are, man, I'm not like gonna cope anymore. I'm gonna make something amazing. So um, that's what I'm a stand for being possible. I'll tell you about what it was like inside of me when the first not from the beginning, I fell in love with my husband. I was 17. And, man, we look back at that time of falling in love and, it was so pure and we like to say it was soul deep, right? Like, man, like if most people have a falling in love story. that it's undeniable that like there was a connection here. Like there something happened between me and this other person that is not, it does not feel ordinary. And so we had a really cool beginning, had kids, and the very common story about feeling more and more disconnected, feeling like, aren't I supposed to have like a partner, a teammate here? I feel like I'm dragging him where I want him to go. He feels like he's kicking and screaming, that I'm nagging him all the time. Um, and we just couldn't quite sort out or find the answers to how to get to the next stage. Like, what is a
Yeah.
long-term marriage? Like, how does this work? Like, I feel so common. I can complain to my friends. Everyone's having the same experience, right? But like, what's after this? You know,
Yeah.
what is next?
I'm glad you were asking that question.
I think it's a different question than no. So I had that question alongside of is this going to work question, right? Maybe there's not anything next. Is this going to work? Is this something that's good for me long term? I remember the one moment that I'll never forget is I'm standing in the shower with like 8, 9 month pregnant belly, right? And I would go in the shower to have a cry because we would get into these arguments, into these situations that I didn't see a path out of. And I remember standing in the shower and like my salty tears are mixing in with the shower water, running down my big belly, and my hands are against the wall. And I really wanted to be at home with my children until they turned 5, 6. Like I was homeschooling at the time, but I knew that I wanted to be a mom at home. And if I split up with my husband, then that would change, right? I'd be working. And I just remember being in the shower and having this cry. And at the same time, as I had this determination to live the life and to be the mother that I wanted to be. Um, that felt so strong, but felt equally strong. Like, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, not this. Not this, not
Mm,
this vibe, not these conversations. I never wanna have these conversations again. I never wanna feel this way again. I never, ever, ever wanna look at another human being the way I'm looking at my husband, right? I never wanna be looked at again like he's looking at me. This
mm,
feels awful. I never wanna feel this powerless again. I'm like a smart, strong, independent, clever human being that gets along with everybody else in my life, right? But something about in this household, in this marriage,
yeah.
felt like we were in a gridlock. We were stuck.
Mm. Thank you for painting the picture. I think a lot of people could relate to that.
Yeah.
I it 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 hurts hearing it. It brings me back to it. It affected me. What you were saying, to be in a marriage with someone who you once really loved and trying to figure out where it went wrong
Mhm.
and how can I fix this,
Yeah.
while at the same time really considering like I'm not sure if this is going to work.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do. I mean, the pain and the frustration of that was intense for me, and I really felt it when you shared that. So, thank you for being so honest and vulnerable. Can I
Yeah.
ask you so that I have a better idea and so that people listening might have a better idea? What were the things that really weren't working for you? Like, um, can you give examples of that time when things weren't working? And I know you mentioned you said something about you felt like you had to nag,
Yeah.
but if I could get some more specific examples, I'd love that.
Yes. So, um, it's so funny to tell the story. It's like it takes real, concentration to remember the headspace and the language I used back then, right? Since it's so different now. Um, but at the time, I was at home with my kids. I always have tons of projects going on, busy human being, but I had ideas about how our family could run, the things we could do, the way we could work together that I knew were beautiful, right? If we could all sit down together at the same time at the table, and have a meal a certain way. I just had ideas about how I wanted to interact as a family, how I wanted to speak to each other when we were upset, right? I had all these, I'm reading all the books, I'm doing all the things to learn what would really be wonderful. And it felt like when I tried to bring those up to my husband, it would fall flat, right? And so, trying to talk about money, trying to talk about sex, trying to talk about differences we had in parenting styles, right? Like I would be really clear on what I would want, right? And what I thought would be wonderful. And then I would explain it really clearly to him, right? What I thought was like, this is the best idea ever. Let's do it like this. And we had, and then it wouldn't show up in his behavior, and then I would feel betrayed.
Mm.
It would feel like a betrayal on the deepest level because these are our children, right?
Hmm.
Don't you want the best for them, right? Don't you want? And turns out, we had our certain dynamic. There's lots of iterations of different dynamics that people have, but in his dynamic, he was trying his hardest not to lose himself, right, in our relationship. So I remember him, we moved a few times and we would get to a new place. An example is he would he's trying his hardest to do all the things that I would love to have done. Let's fix this, let's fix this up, let's, set the house up this way. And at the end of it, he would be like, I don't feel like any of this is mine, and I'd be like,
Mm.
holy moly, what? And so what I realized was one of the things was like I wasn't being a person he was not just comfortable with, but eager to share what he would love with, right?
Mm.
And I wasn't communicating in a way that made him excited and eager to do the things that I was excited to do, right? So we were like two beautiful human beings with beautiful ideas about how to make a wonderful life, and there was just a chronic disconnection in
Yeah.
getting on the same page and making
Hmm.
right? And even things that would happen, there'd be resentment after, right? Like I remember um I had things set up a certain way and I had a dream about which table I wanted, kitchen table I wanted, and he like came home from Goodwill. It was taking a long time. I didn't know he was annoyed that we didn't have a table yet, and he like comes home with a table from Goodwill and he's like solving the problem. And I'm like pissed because I had an idea, right? And there was this chronic disconnection and like underneath this tug of war between
Mm.
who's right and who
Mm.
handled it. There was the material stuff that we, couldn't seem to get on the same always. We got along a lot of the time, but there'd be this chronic resentment underneath about who got what whose way, and not feeling heard, not feeling appreciated,
Yeah.
right? And it left there was so much compromising happened, which now I abstain from compromising. I'm anti-compromising. That it was sinking like our dynamic, our connection as a couple.
Mm. Yeah. You're painting the picture really well. Thank you. Um, so I have to ask,
Yeah.
um, with that being the case, um, chronic disconnection, competition, feeling not heard, not appreciated. I
Yeah.
know there's so many people that can relate to
Yeah.
this.
It's the thing.
What what was the turning point? How did this shift? What was there a moment, a realization for you where
Yeah.
things shifted?
So there were a lot, I think I don't think I know that our evolution as spouses um, is our evolution of human beings. And one of the, I'm super excited about being married forever because it's fun and adorable now, but also because of the human being that it is turning me into and that it will continue to turn me into. So I was evolving along with the progression of me understanding what it would take and making decisions about what to do about this relationship in my life. And I had hired a coach. I was doing all the self-help things. And it came to be my turn to talk. And so this was a turning point in this conversation. Uh, it was my turn to be coached in this group container that I was in. And the coach says, wait, what are we doing here? Like, stay or go. Like, there's a lot of complaints. There's a lot of, I can't work because my husband won't get on board with this and feels like, and he's holding me back, and all these ideas about, right.
Yeah.
And part of it is, you know, not, there's no truth in it. And then so much of it, there is truth. If you're not, you know, in a relationship where you can navigate all the ups and downs and schedules and budgets and all that together, then yeah, it is going to prevent you from flourishing in your career. But I was really sure that, like, if I can't stay in this relationship and have the career that I want, that was the conversation I was having. And so the coach was like, okay, so stay or go. Like, what is it? You know? And I was like, what? Like, right now? And he was like, yeah. How long have you felt like this? And I'm like, I don't know, a long time. And in that moment, I realized, I was like, oh, I'm playing the half in, half out game chronically, just ongoing. That's just the way that I am as a wife. Is I'm not sure about this, right? Like a constant, I'm sure it was the undercurrent in all our communication and conversation, is like, if you don't answer correctly, if you don't, right, satisfy these ideas that I have, then is this really going to work?
Yeah.
Right. And when I saw that I was playing that game, at first I was like, I'm leaving. And then I was like, whoa, the power that I felt when I considered saying, I'm going to turn this around. I'm staying, and I'm not staying if it's going to feel like this. That's for sure. So what would it be like for me to decide, oh, I'm staying? And if I'm staying, that means we're going to make this amazing, because I've done not amazing for a while now, and that's not sustainable. And so to hold the both end of, no, no, I'm staying, we're doing this, this is it forever, and no, this is going to be amazing, right?
Hmm.
Produced inside of me a capacity to be creative and think outside of all the boxes I've been living in. Right? When I thought about what a husband is supposed to be, what a wife is supposed to be, it also freed me when I really got clear that, like, no, 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 I'm staying and this is going to be great. I have been trained in leadership since high school, right? But I had marriage in a different section of my brain, right? Marriage is supposed to, family is supposed to be this other thing, right? Where I show up and it happens to me, right? And I don't have any effect. I didn't have any consideration at the time of, like, the effect that I was having on my partner, right? It felt like, now I look at it, it's this, like, huge blind spot, right? Like, wait, how am I affecting my partner every day? What kind of human being am I eliciting from him with my communication, with my decisions, with, you know, even the way I'm mothering or the way I'm taking care of myself, right? What
Hmm.
kind of human being is showing up for me because of how I'm being? You know, we know that if, you know, we have another human being in our house and we insult them every day, if we tell them how stupid they are, what an idiot they are, how not capable they are, think of, like, throw your worst bullying narratives, right? We're all pretty clear that if you live with that, you'll shrink, man. Any of us. If we have someone constantly berating us, right? So that means my behavior can dramatically affect another human being. Well, I had not at the time even considered, wait, if I can have an effect on a negative effect on a human being, and if I'm claiming that he's having a negative effect on me, then wait, if this dynamic flipped and I decided to have a positive effect on this human being, like, what would that look like? Right? Like, it,
Amazing.
yeah,
And I want to ask you, what did it look like? I love that you had that moment of choosing 100% in.
yeah,
I'm in.
what it took.
No more half in, no
No
more
more.
half out. And not only am I in, I get to create this too.
Mhm.
And so amazing transformational shift. So
Yeah,
what
I
was
had no idea how, or if I could at the
yeah.
time, right? But it was, you know, we all have those moments with other things in our life. I'm going to start a business. I'm going to run a marathon. When you first decide to run a marathon, you don't know how you're going. I'm going to get in shape, right? You don't know how yet, or else you'd probably already be doing it,
Mm,
right? Um,
Well, there was a leap of faith.
oh, absolutely. And it was radical. It didn't just feel radical. It was ridiculously radical. I'd been to all these other people that like told me to you leave your husband. Like this isn't going to work. Listen, I
Yeah,
got my story down, my victim story down. Listen to how he talks to me. Listen to what he does. I could talk for hours about how awful he was. I could complain to my friends and have them be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the worst, right? And I don't think he did, but he could have talked for hours about me in the same way, right?
right.
That was all there. Um,
So I have to ask, inside of your home, inside of your relationship, what did that shift look like? I would love another example that we could visualize and understand from your life.
so it looked like me looking really clearly in very confronting ways, now totally liberating ways, but it can be so confronting to be liberated,
Mm.
about, wait, who am I being in this relationship? Like if I am creating the relationship that I have, then I get to look at my behaviors and my ways of thinking and play with it, switch it up. If I just tried something different, right? Radically different than I've tried before. I've tried
Yeah,
complaining. I've tried all the other things that haven't been working. What could I do? And so the first thing that I decided to do was to stop complaining, to abstain from complaining. This was like my first idea. Because if that's my, you know, main thing that I'm doing to try to get more of what I want and suffer less, and it's not working, then my idea was to stop that and see what shows up instead. I can't imagine what would be there instead at the time. I couldn't even imagine. But I knew that if I stopped, something else would need to show up. And so I remember we were going on vacation and we were going to be with his family. So it was actually like a challenging week, right? To like decide to stop complaining. Um, and I got to watch my thoughts and I got to hear all of the thinking and I got to notice how I would feel, how those thoughts made me feel and how I would feel if I heard those thoughts from another person. And any thought that had even just a tinge of complaint, I said, "Nah, let's find something else to think." Right? Um,
yeah.
about the same situation. And it actually switched pretty fast. Like once you make a decision like that, I'm not going to complain. You stop. And I went into this week, and I walked into this vacation house, and I've been on lots of vacations with the same people. I love them. They're my family. But man, if they all, not just my husband, Drew, I walked in and everybody seemed different to me. Everybody, it was impossible for me to walk in and just stop complaining about my husband. Turns out I walked in and I stopped complaining about everything, right? It was like, whoa, who is Heather when she's not complaining? And I got to feel that in me. And I get to show up that with everybody around me. And I got to start to learn how to have influence on the situation, whatever situation I'm in, without it starting with what's wrong.
Tell me more about that, because
Yeah.
there's people that are going to be watching this saying, okay, Heather, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to be negative, but how the heck do I get my voice heard? How do I have influence? What if I want something and I'm not getting it?
Yes, 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 yes. So there is a whole world out of and that a whole world and a whole experience and a whole just reality um of greater influence and greater success outside of the world of complaining, outside of communicating what you don't like. And I call I consider it feminine power. It's a way of being that um, has you change. Now, every single complaint that I have, this is so important. Every single complaint that I have is massively important. Every single not this, I call it, every single noticing like this could be better. That's a gift that I have, right? All of us have a gift that we can be in a situation and we could say, "Man, I don't like this," right? "I don't like how this is going. I don't like how this person's acting." And to be able, what turns someone from a victim into a leader is to be able to take the not this and feel it, like really get that I'm a no to this. And then internally, before I've communicated to anyone, ask myself, what would I love to create instead?
Aha.
What would I love to be here instead of this? Right? So, still noticing and being specific about what I don't like, and then allowing my beautiful creative brain to imagine what I would love instead. And this feels vulnerable, actually. It's like there's vulnerability in sharing things that are embarrassing, but there's also vulnerability in sharing what you would love, which turns out is why most of us don't do it. Right. And so I got to practice. I'm still practicing every single day. Every single day, I'm practicing noticing what I would love and daring to, number one, let somebody else know. And number two, align my actions to only that, right?
Mm.
So if I would love us to speak more kindly to each other, my two boys to speak more kindly to each other. I could
Hmm.
tell them until I'm blue in the face, speak kindly, speak kindly, speak kindly, speak kindly.
Stop being rude.
Stop being rude. Cut it out. I don't like your behavior, right?
Yeah.
Or I could show up and number one, model, but also speak into other people what I'm so excited to see in them. So it's really usually easier to wrap your head around it with parenting first before, partnering. So I love to use the example. My son, I'm outside talking to my husband, and he's 8 and he comes out and he's like, Mom, 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 Mom. And I'm trying to finish the conversation with my husband before I talk to my son. So I said 1 minute and he's still, Mom, 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 Mom. And I turned around when I was done with my husband and I said, Thank you so much for being patient. What would Patient Cedar, that's my youngest kid's name, love to tell me? And he paused and he was like, Patience, huh? And I just noticed a shift in his being, right? And everything slowed down about him because I decided to name him as being patient, right?
Mm.
We could have continued with the urgency, right? And the, impatience, maybe you call it. But I wanted to know what patient Cedar looked like. And I know inside of him, there is a patient boy somewhere, right?
Wow. It's so tough. I mean, parenting is an awesome example. Thank you. It's so tough to, I mean, I'll say this for me, even
Yeah.
like to not, ooh, to not label the thing that you don't want,
Yep. Hmm.
rather than do this 180 and start evoking what you do want. Um, but I love it, and I'm in agreement. I have not had much success um, labeling and judging the
Yeah.
negative aspect, but it's this compulsion that I used to have and still shows up for me. And I have had much better success, even though it doesn't. Like I can imagine people saying to you, like, "Does that really work, Heather? Does it really
I
work?"
know.
It sounds kind of soft. It sounds kind of like woo woo, or like you know,
Huh?
don't you need to drop the hammer once in a while?
Yeah. Well, I am totally down and um would never like a strong no. Oh, so good.
Hmm.
What is even better than a strong no is what I call a no yes, right?
Okay.
And what if in the same sentence, I could say no thanks to what I didn't want and drop down a seed, drop down a hammer, if you want, of what I would love. Because if I'm the one with the not this, I consider it my maybe responsibility, but my joy to elicit from myself what I would love instead. And that
Hmm.
reality hasn't been born yet, right? So I'm conceiving it inside of me, right?
Yes.
Reality that could come. And so
Yeah.
it's the ultimate creative act. That's what creativity is when something isn't there yet, right? And you're like, this is what I would love to create. It's our highest capacity, right? Is to
Yeah.
imagine a possibility that isn't there yet. And then it's, to me, my highest service is aligning my actions to that which I would love. right? So using my language, which I'm still practicing this every single day. I am not only operating in this way, but every single day, even if it's 1% more, I love
Mhm.
to show up in my life as the visionary, right? For what could be alive in me, what could be alive in my children that isn't yet, or is a tiny little baby. Maybe patience is a tiny little infant inside my 8-year-old, right? But if I speak about him as a patient being and form that identity, I just like to, what, if I could say awful things to my son, tell him how stupid he is every day, I could do that. What would he think about himself? He'd be so sure after a week that he is, after one time. How many times do we have to tell our kids stupid before they believe that they're stupid? Well, how about we tell them the amazing things about them?
Mhm.
And if those things are just starting to develop,
Mm.
right? Like, what if we have a capacity with our own minds and our own mouths and our own imaginations to call people into their greatness,
Mm.
right? Like, what if that was my role as a wife? Yeah,
I wanna know something.
yes,
Can you give us an example of how you've used this kind of communication with your husband, this kind of
absolutely. Yeah.
having the influence, calling him into greatness, focusing on what you'd want, what you'd love rather than not?
Yes. Well, the number one thing that I do is, as often as I can, communicate what I would love. What and communicate it in a way like that would make, like, when I'm communicating with someone and I want to be in relationship with someone, I want them to be excited to be in a relationship with me.
Mhm.
Right? If we're going to the mall, I'm not, Drew, you want to go to the mall? Like, I don't want to drag you to the mall. Drew, you should really go to the mall with me because last weekend you wanted to go to the movies and I did it. Right? Like, is that how friends act? Like, no. How about every time that I communicate and I have an idea in mind, whether it's about taking showers before bed, like, who do I show up as so that people are excited to do the things that I'm excited to do? Right? So this is, been a very, very long journey. And I started in really, really tiny ways, just noticing what I don't want and then communicating what I would love, and not from a place of guilt or shame from that not being that way, but excitement for a future that would be that way. But
Right.
my favorite story happened 2, 3 uh, New Year's ago. I was, coaching people on how to have, this transformation in their relationships inside themselves first, and then in their relationships. And I was like, my relationship, my story about my husband, my way of speaking to him, I'm already so proud of it. How could it get any better? Is like this thought that I had. And then I said, you know what I haven't said yet? What language I haven't used yet is language like the best, the most, because I was really not into this comparison thing. Like the best husband, the best wife, like what am I going to compare myself to other people? That was an old story. And I said, how about I play with that? Let's just see what happens if I decide and start to think and communicate that I have the best husband. And so I made a list of words like that and phrases like that, and I started saying them in my head. It felt really vulnerable at first because I would say, I have the best husband. And then the list of reasons why I don't have the best husband would all come up in my head. Right. And so I got to meet all of those and be with them. And then I started saying it when I was able to say it genuinely. Um, I would say it out loud to Sam that you're the best husband. I also said,
Hmm.
decided
How did
that,
he react to that?
yeah. So at first he didn't like it. First he was like, what? Like, I mean, imagine if someone, if you felt like you'd been struggling with something a long time and then someone said, "You're the best at that." Right? Up in your head, you'd get all the reasons why
Mm,
that you are not the best, right?
mm,
So, I started communicating this over and over. Um, Eventually, it was just part of our vernacular, okay? About 2 months later, um, I remember where I was. I was standing downstairs, top of the basement stairs. I don't even know what we were talking about, but he called me the best wife ever. And I was like, "Holy guacamole." Like, I did not ask to be called the best wife ever. I did not change anything about how I was wifing, but I put new language into our dynamic, right?
Mm.
I spoke about him, um, and it took a little while to adjust, but it came back at me. And so this is an experiment I've done over and over and over and over and over. When I notice what I don't like, I change it into what I would love, and then I speak it out into the world, to other people, to him, to our children. I keep it present within myself, and it becomes the new truth every single time.
Wow.
Time.
I feel like we need to pause there for a second
Yeah.
and let that one land. Hmm.
The discovery of my ability, and it's not just mine, humans. I keep saying mine, but it's really us, guys. It's us. Our ability to imagine a more beautiful, useful way of being, and then choosing it. And when I say choosing it, I mean thinking it, speaking it, saying no to anything else.
Mhm.
If there's anything I can depend on, it's that I have really beautiful possibilities inside me waiting to be discovered for myself, for situations that I'm in, for the people around me, and that I have a power that nobody could take away from me ever, to align myself with that reality, to let it be born inside me, to let it flow out of me in my words and my actions.
Mm.
Nobody can take away my ability to to think about how wonderful my husband is. No one can take away my ability to say no when I think something unkind about my husband, right? Those are capacities that I have inside myself, that there were muscles that were really weak. I didn't even know they were there, right? Sometimes when you start working out, you start to use muscles that you're like, I didn't even know I had that muscle and it's sore now, right?
Yeah.
And so I've found new muscles that I didn't invent, man. Like, other people have been using these, getting around other people that use them, having other people, listening to other
Mm.
people that,
Yeah.
you
I wanna
know,
ask I wanna ask you before we go, like, what would you recommend for someone who feels like they're in that earlier stage of things? They're feeling stuck. Maybe they're connecting with a bit of what you're saying, but it seems far off and, like, out of reach, and
yeah.
I don't I don't really know how to do that. What would you recommend?
Um, the first thing I would recommend is the thought, or the affirmation that, like, this is not all there is. This is not all marriage is. There is so much more here to discover. People say, "Oh, do I have to live with this the rest of my life?" You know, and man, the answer is no. And it's not because you can leave. You can, of course. I put no shame on people that, decide to change relationships. If that's your path, that's your path. But there is another path of transformation, of freedom, of joy, of discovering a power inside yourself that you didn't know that humans had, right? That if you choose to use the situation, you could you could touch that.
Mm.
You could access that. And that is not, you don't, we've talked about this before, Drew. Like, you don't have to. You don't have to stay married. Marriage is not a need. In fact, my marriage cannot fill any of my needs. Maybe in times past, but now I could fill any need that I have. And so if marriage is not a need, then it's not here to fill my needs. It's here to do something else. And the journey to discover what that is, right? For me, it's the opportunity of a lifetime
Mm,
to be in an impossible marriage, a marriage that feels impossible to stay in, to enjoy, to sustain. Like that is the opportunity of a lifetime because you get to discover that there's another stage to relationship, to yourself,
mm,
to to being human that most of the population never explores, never dares to go find. Um, and the path to finding the next stage of relationship, the next stage of being human, um, is so in order to move stages, you need two things: adversity and mentorship.
mm, mm.
You got the adversity, man. Like you got, I know you can list the problems in your marriage, right? I know you can list the things that you don't like about what's going on in your life. The second part is mentorship. And so that's Drew's job. That's my job, right? People come and engage with us and we make an agreement and we talk every single week and we lend, you know, we're not sitting here as perfect people that don't have any. I just fought with my husband this weekend. We're having the most beautiful, not just makeup today, but we've come to new agreements that I was like, holy moly, who knew this was possible, right? Like it keeps going, it doesn't stop. But when you have someone that embodies the vibe of the relationship, of a kind of relationship that you didn't know was possible yet, when you're around that and when you
Mm,
open yourself to like, whoa, could I have that too? Then all of a sudden you have access to growing in a way that um, most people never grow. Um,
mm.
it's a really beautiful opportunity and a really wonderful journey for anyone who's, um, yeah, interested in taking it. Mhm.
Thank you so much. This conversation was exactly what I wanted and more. I wanted to hear all about your experience, the struggles, um, the real life stuff, the how you switched it, how you shifted your mindset and your way of being and your behavior. I think you've reignited hope inside of me, and I hope that people watching this feel the same too. And I hope they reach out to you if they feel called to.
Yeah, I think um, the opportunity that we have to be around people just a couple steps in front of us, right? That's a
Hmm.
treasure, man. That's a treasure. And it really takes something. It really took something for me. But to choose to be in conversation with someone who has um, accomplished what you really are. I was sure that I couldn't, right? For a long time. I was sure that I couldn't turn this around, that I couldn't have the happiness and the connection and the joy that other people somehow had created. I thought maybe it happened to them, but don't you think we're here to say that like it's created and you can create it? You really can. Anybody can.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you said today, I'm like, yep, that's it,
Yeah.
right? And in this last bit, offering hope through letting people know that they can do it, you can create it.
Yeah.
Um, Spot on, and it's exciting. It's not always easy.
Yeah.
Um, it's the greatest personal development course that I've ever signed up for. Yeah, I unwittingly signed up for. Oh,
And,
sorry.
I use the word epic and it's like tropey, I guess, for, life coach personal development stuff, but epic is an amazing word because if someone's doing like an epic skateboard trick, it's like that's near impossible, right? That's um whoa, that I wouldn't have believed that was possible. That was so epic, right? That's one way to use the word epic. But the other, it's the same thing, right? The other way we speak about epic is like an epic journey. In Greek mythology, an epic journey is
Mm.
an adventure that has adversity in it. You come back not the same person, right? If you go on an epic adventure, you meet adversity that invites you, requires you to expand, to grow
Mhm.
into someone you couldn't imagine that you could have been. And you get to come back and you get to bring that to the situations that used to feel impossible, that you couldn't have. Epic journeys, usually you're like, I can't stand it here, I'm going. Screw this place, I'm off to, there's got to be better stuff out there. And you go, man, and you interact with the world, and you grow in your capacity to overcome and to lead and to create, and you get to come back and
Mhm.
yeah, have that. So that's why I call the kind of relationships that I help people build epic, because
Well, thank you, Heather, for choosing to go on your own epic journey and then sharing it with us. You've
yeah,
inspired me, and I'm sure you've inspired a bunch of other people too.
yeah, well, let's keep it going.
Yeah, for
Epic's
sure.
available. All right, thank you so much, Drew. You're such a gift. You're
Thank
such
you, Heather. We'll talk again.
All right, thanks everyone for listening. See you soon.
Bye.